Hi, um, good morning, and hope everyone is okay. Today we're going to be looking at how to develop proposals for consultancy services for the public sector. I'm going to be asking us to feel free to unmute your microphone, or maybe I should leave it as a Q&A. Do not feel constrained to flag or raise any question in the course of this meeting. So I'm going to just start by sharing my application window. I hope you got yes, let me know if you see this, if you see my screen. Okay. If you see my screen, this is a live and ongoing proposal for a public institution. Just in case you didn't know, Housing Finance Bank is government-owned bank, and so does procurement under PPDA rules and regulations. That's in Uganda. For those of you who are joining from Uganda, now what they want is consultancy services for coaching. And let me know if you see this. If you see this, it will mean, let me just not collapse the ribbon. Yeah, consultancy services for coaching. And this was a bid called for, issued on 11th of November. And this was shared with everyone that's on this call. If you received the invite, then you probably received this document as part of the invite. So I'd like to say welcome. We're going to walk through this step by step. Because this is a live call for proposals, it's going to be a live presentation as I'm preparing as part of a business that's running this exercise. Um, so what happens? We'll just run through the proposal for a few minutes, and then not the proposal, sorry, the request for proposals, see what the requirements are, and then go into the structuring of our document. If you have any comments, if you don't hear me, feel free to put your question, comment in the Q&A section. So this document, starting again from the first page, a bank is requesting for proposals to procure consultancy services for executive coaching. What normally happens is they give you the subject, they give you a procurement reference number, they tell you when it was issued, and then you go into the table of contents. This document is 90 pages. We will only touch a bit of it, will not go into the entire document, but we shall go as far as the time allows us to. It tells us the documents shall be inspected at their offices, and you must have a proposal securing declaration. And if you are eligible, then you apply. The deadline for this is November 29th, which is Wednesday. Day tomorrow is Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday. In 3 days, this should have been submitted. So they say, looking at the invitation, they have allocated funds to be used for acquisition of executive coaching. They invite sealed proposals, and then the bidding will be conducted in accordance with open domestic bidding procedures contained in the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act 2003. and the PPDA, Procurement of Consultancy Services Regulations 2014. It is open to all consultants. If you are interested and eligible, you may obtain further information and inspect the request for proposal document from the administration department between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. This request is in English, may be purchased by interested bidders at a non-refundable fee of 100,000 shillings. Once you pay for this, then you should proceed and obtain documents from the address below. The proposals must be delivered at that address before 4 p.m. on 29th November 2023. All proposals must be accompanied by a proposal securing declaration that is valid until 31st March 2024. Late proposals shall be rejected. Proposals will be open in the presence of consultants representatives who choose to attend at the address below at 4:30 p.m. on 29th November. So when you submit a bid, it's a public procurement. It means they'll register and then they'll ask you if you want to sit and wait and see who has submitted. That's what happens during the proposal opening. That means they will bring all the bids in front of everyone who has submitted if you send a representative, and then they'll open the bids and then they'll say, this has been brought by this company, this has been brought by this company, this has been brought by this company, this has been brought by this company. The other thing you need to know about open domestic bidding, it means there is a threshold. Open domestic bidding means in under PPDA regulations, there is a threshold, financial resource threshold that you cannot exceed when you're going to procure. I'll need to check in with one of my colleagues. There was a time when it was about 100 million. I think it has gone up to about 300. Any bid and below 200 or 300 million is available for open domestic bidding. If it exceeds that threshold, it means you can now open it up to international bidding. If you know that, that means your proposal should not exceed that amount. Otherwise, it may be considered, but you'll have an issue when it comes to the financials. So now with that, we know that um, they say the planned procurement subject to changes as follows. They've issued the invitation. The closing date is 29th of November, and then they will evaluate at least 20 days from submission. And then you always sign the contract after the Solicitor General has reviewed it and approved it. So you cannot do any contract with government unless you followed these steps and the contract has been drafted, it has been reviewed by the Solicitor General. SG stands for Solicitor General, and then it is approved for signing. So once the Solicitor General approves the contract, then they send it to you and they ask you, go ahead and sign this contract, and then you start work. So from 29th November to about 29th December, they'll be reviewing the proposals. That means this work is likely to start 2024. And that's the thing we need to learn about bidding. Sometimes it takes between 3 to 6 months uh, between prospecting and actual contracting, especially when it comes to government work. So you're bidding to this week in 29th November. They'll tell you 20 days to review the proposals. The bank may be more efficient. Other institutions will take those 20 days, they finish the technical proposal review, then they call you, come and open the financial proposal bid, um, and then you all witness those who pass the technical proposal stage go into the review of the financial proposals. And then before you know it, we are into the next stage, which is when they finish reviewing, then there is a notice of award, which is published on their notice board or on the PPDA website, or like as we speak now, there's a system called an e-government procurement system. So if you're registered on the e-government procurement system as a registered provider, then you'll see the bids that have been awarded by the institution that you are bidding with or at. So, um, proposal procedure. We'll not read the 90 pages, we'll scroll through them and then we'll see how it goes. Um, I'm doing this cognizant of the fact that some of you might be very interested in expressing interest in this, but this is a learning experience and we expect all of us to walk through this journey one way or another. Okay, so where are we at now? Uh, Please feel free to raise a comment or a question if you have any, and do not feel held back if you want to say something by way of writing. Voice microphones are in listen only mode, but if you want to talk, you can express that you want to talk, and then you can put your observation in the Q&A just below your screen. Okay, so I would, for most of you who may be in this business of writing proposals, you'll be like, skip, cut the chase and get to the bottom of this. Let's get writing. Let's get into the gist of documenting what we are looking for. Uh, but it's important that we walk through these steps because this is targeting people who either haven't been through this process or have been through this process and wonder why. So much of this is going to be explaining the whys as much as we go through the hows. Um, I'll be doing this after 30 minutes. We take a 5-10 minute break, and then after another 30 minutes, we take a 5-10 minute break up to the end of the exercise. So this is our table of contents. It's a 90-page document. The scope of proposal is the first thing we look at. Now, why aren't we just diving into writing? Because we must understand what the client's interests are. And once we've got an understanding of those interests, then we delve into um, figuring out how best we can respond to these interests. So the entity is Housing Finance Bank. It has invited for proposals and it will be in compliance with the PPDA Act and regulations. Act of 2003 and regulations of 2014. That means you should know what the act says and you should know what the regulations say. In public bidding, there are things you need to learn about. For example, there is what they call PDS, Proposal Data Sheet. There is what they call Statement of Requirements, SOR. There is also what they call ITC, which is instruction to consultants. Some people use ITB, instructions to bidders. And then, so when you start hearing me talk about the PDS, you hear me talking about the SOR, you hear me talking about the ITC or ITBs, it shouldn't be something strange to your hearing. Um, and then throughout this request for proposals document, so RFP is also request for proposals. And then when they say in writing means communicated in written form with proof of receipt. That means when you submit a bid, there must be somewhere where they sign that we have received and you have that proof. When you pay for this document, as one of my colleagues covered, you must be given a receipt which shows that you have paid for this document. So even when we have this and when you have this and you look at it and you say, okay, I'm going to write, when you submit and you don't have a copy of the receipt of this document, of proof of purchase of this document, your bid won't be accepted or your proposal won't be accepted. Okay. And then here they're saying the day means working day. So they've said they've gotten funds from internal resources. Sometimes they tell you to where they've gotten funds, because if a donor has given government money, the donor wants to be recognized as we have received money from or credit to a loan from the World Bank, or we received money from donor X. And this case, the institution has funds from internal sources, and then they say the payments will be made directly by the institution and will be subject in all terms to the terms and conditions resulting in the contract. Now, we'll also notice that if you're doing any bids in Uganda, you are expected to pay to be paid in Uganda shillings. Even if you quoted in US dollars, they'll still say, as far as you're doing business with Uganda, you'll be paid in Uganda shillings. Um, this institution, this particular institution, when you start doing work with it, there's also a hidden requirement that you open an account with them so that they pay you uh, through them. Now, that's their practice. So they'll make payments according to terms and conditions. The other thing is, of course, if you've been in this business, they'll tax you. Um, if you're VAT registered, you quote including VAT. If you're not VAT registered, you only quote for withholding taxes, and things like that. And all these are withheld at source before they remit to you. So if we say the threshold, if it is 100 million, for example, Uganda shillings, I think it's 200 or 300. I just need to check again. That means there is 26%. Yes, there's about 18% VAT plus 6% withholding tax. 18 plus 6 is 24%. So you already counted 24% tax, um, expected tax deduction from this. So in addition to the fee, you factor in the VAT, which is the 18%, but the withholding is withheld off whatever your fee is. So you do not include withholding tax as a what? As part of the fee. Then, of course, there is corrupt practices that we as consultants should observe the best standards of ethics, not offer bribes, not misrepresent or recklessly mislead or attempt to mislead, not to collude between two or more parties, not to be coercive, and then if any of us has been found to be corrupt, we shall be thrown out and things like that. Now, what determines our eligibility? We must be one, have legal capacity to enter into a contract. We are not insolvent, we are not in receivership, we are not bankrupt, or we are not being wound up. And our activities have not been suspended. Suspended by who? By PPDA. We are not in any legal proceedings or for any of the circumstances, and we have fulfilled our obligations to pay taxes and social security contributions. So, as part of our bidding process, they will ask you to submit your TIN number, then they check with URA, are you tax compliant? They'll ask us to submit our NSSF number if it is there, and then they ask us, are you compliant? They check with NSSF. With the e-government procurement system, this is automated. They just it's hooked onto URA, it is hooked onto NSSF. They check these details, and you can fail to pass because you haven't met these requirements. The consultant may be a person, a private entity, and or a government-owned entity, subject to instruction to consultants, subclause 4.6. You get that? Now, if your government, if we go to 4.6, it says government-owned enterprises shall only be eligible if they can establish that they are legally and financially autonomous and operate under commercial law. Okay, so consultant shall have the nationality of an eligible country in accordance with Section 5, eligible country. You get that? So sometimes because it's a local bid, they'll ask you to submit national IDs to prove that you are Ugandan, because there's the boo build Uganda by Ugandan. So all this is part of the expectation in this case of writing your public uh, bid. And then there's issues of conflict of interest. You must declare conflict of interest, etc., etc. So we shall go into the proposal documents. We have the instructions, the procurement procedures, we have the statements of requirements, and then we have the contract and what it will look like. Okay. Um, so procurement procedures are clear. They've given us forms. The beauty with bidding for government is they give you forms and they tell you just fill these forms, give them to us, and we shall work with them, and that will constitute your bid. But you have to be as meticulous as you would with any other bid, because if you miss out on details in the forms, you might miss out on the procurement. If you need any clarifications, you shall contact the procurement and disposing entity. They call them PDEs, by the way. So PDEs are government entities or bodies. Entities are ministries, departments, or agencies that have the mandate to conduct or to procure services, goods, and works from the public or any other contractors. They are called PDEs. They are just called ministry. They are part of ministries, departments, and agencies. And the PDE is procurement and disposal, procuring and disposal and disposing entity. So keep that at the back of your mind if you want to do government procurement. Again, it's very important. Otherwise, you'll get lost and you'll get caught somewhere along the way. Okay, after this break is when we shall go into the document, the actual writing. A lot of noise from me, a lot of verbosity, a lot of words, but they are very critical elements in this proposal uh, request. Okay. The cost of proposals. The consultant shall bear all costs associated with the preparation and submission of its proposal, including any negotiations with or visits to the PDE. PDE in this case is Housing Finance Bank, and the Housing Finance Bank shall not be responsible or liable for these costs regardless of the conduct or outcome of the procurement process. What are these costs? In transaction economics, we call them ex ante costs. EXANTE, ex ante costs. These are costs of transaction that you incur before you actually do the transaction. For example, driving to a shop, the fuel, the energy you spend, the distance you travel before you go to pick the thing in the shop is a cost you incur. And in economics, in transaction economics, we call that an ex ante cost. So what they're trying to tell us is the power we have used, the internet we are going to use, the brains we are going to use to prepare this document is not part of their cost. It is our cost to bear. Whether we win or lose, we shall incur that cost. Most of you who have run a business, you go through this experience. Somebody tells you you want to write a bid, and somebody tells you first pay me money to write this bid, and you know the bid might or might not go through, and you ask yourself, is it worth writing this bid? These are the costs we talk about here, and the procuring and disposing entity, the PDE, in this case Housing Finance Bank, and all other government institutions will tell you that's your cost to carry, or like His Excellency says, that's your Rubengo to carry. The costs of proposals and costs before contracting and costs before the actual transactions. By If you're an economist, you'll understand what we say, ex ante costs, and they are borne by the consultant or the bidder. Now, we are bidding for what we call services. There is bidding for goods, and then there is bidding for works. So those are three kinds of procurements. If you're going to build, my business has built a couple of schools for a number of organizations and not government per se. And what they did was you send a statement of works, not and they give you statements of requirements, but you submit a statement of works. How much each block or brick will cost, how much each bag of cement will take, must be against specific designs. There are bids of that nature. If you're into engineering and works, if you're into electricals and things like that, then there's bids which are for goods. You're just supplying um, deliverable items like computers. You might be supplying software in form of CDs and things like that. In this case, it is just services, so we just keep that at the back of our minds. Preparation of proposals. They've told us this is important, what we need to pay attention to when we are preparing the proposals. The language of proposals shall be, medium of communication shall be in writing. So we are not going to give a verbal proposal unless they invite us to present. And then the proposal, as well as correspondence and documents relating to the proposal exchanged by the consultant, shall be written in English. Then supporting documents that are part of the proposal may be in another language, provided they are accompanied by an accurate translation of the relevant passages in the language specified in 10.2, meaning you can send one in Uganda as long as it is translated to English, the relevant section. Um, I'm going to pause here and ask if anyone has any quick question. If you don't have a question, we shall proceed. Um, we're expected to prepare and submit technical and financial proposals. The proposal submission method, there are also submission methods, but again, we shall go into that in a time when we are submitting one of these days. Shall be one stage, two envelope method, unless otherwise specified in the PDS. Remember, it is what PDS is proposal data sheet. The stage one stage two envelope submission method requires a consultant to submit a single envelope containing two separately sealed envelopes labeled technical and financial proposals, which are opened on different dates at separate proposal openings. Then they can always have a pre-proposal meeting, and then it is not mandatory for you to attend. So just to simplify it, when we are submitting a bid, we write a technical proposal, print it separately, put it in envelope. Then we write the financial proposal, print it, put it in an envelope, label it financial proposal. And then we put the technical proposal and financial proposal in one bigger envelope. And then that's what they mean by one stage, two envelope method. So we submit both technical and financial proposal in one big envelope. And then when they are opening in front of every bidder, they'll open the big envelope and then they put aside the technical proposals. And then they say, we have received. Then they keep the financial proposals, and they don't touch them until they've finished evaluating the technical proposals. After that, then the ones that meet the requirement, then they say, now we shall invite you, for those who have met the requirement for technical proposal, come and see. We are opening the financial proposals. Then they call you, and then they open the envelopes that you had sealed at the time of submission. So that's what they mean by preparing one stage, two envelope. Um, then joint ventures. If you consider you don't have the expertise, you may obtain a full range of expertise by associating with individual consultants. You must obtain approval to enter into a joint venture with consultants who have not been invited for this assignment or other shortlisted consultants. International consultants for large contracts are encouraged to seek the participation of a capable national consultants by entering into a joint venture with or subcontracting part of the assignment to national consultants. Again, there's a lot of bias towards boo boo. Build Uganda, buy Ugandan. Or is it buy Ugandan, build Uganda? Both ways work. So they'll always ask, oh, part of your team, let's see how many of these are Ugandans, because they believe talent must be sourced from within. And if you invest these resources in Ugandans, then we shall be able to collect taxes. Then there'll be a redistribution of resources. Okay, so professional staff. For assignment on a staff time basis, the estimated number of professional months or budget is given in the PDS. The proposal shall, however, be based on the number of professional staff months estimated by the consultant. Okay, so here they say they might give us what their budget is, but they rarely do that. And then if it is desirable that the majority of the professional staff are permanent employees of the consultant, or have an extended and stable working relationship with a consultant. Evidence for this is mandatory. So, uh, what normally happens is the bids I've participated in where I'm not an employee with the organization we're bidding for, they tell us to write and sign a letter of commitment to work with this organization or the company that you're working with for at least 12 months or the period for the contract. So in this case, whichever consultant we are going to be putting as part of this team is expected to sign and commit to working with the firm that is going to be bidding under this bid that we are developing. We're supposed to say, I am so and so, my CV is part of this exercise, and I'm committing to working with this company for the next 12 months during which this bid is what is open. Fortunately for coaching and for a coaching bid like this one, the expectation is that you are available, not that you'll sit at the office for 365 days. Now, the requirement by the PPDA is that these people have a formal arrangement with you and work with you for that period for availability purposes. The other reason is they don't want you to wake up and turn around and say, oh, this guy is no longer here, etc. Because most organizations will wake up, use your CV, and because you're charging very high, they'll say, let's just use his CV. When we win the bid, we'll say he's not available, and we tell them to replace somebody with somebody else. And by that time, government will have contracted with you, and you have nothing else to do. Government has nothing else to do because going through this whole process, 3 to 6 months, doing a re-procurement is painstaking. So they want guarantees at this, and then they say evidence is mandatory. So I'm going to stop here, take a 10-minute break. I'll ask you if there are any questions. Please feel free to type. Since you're not that many, I can allow you to talk. I can see Patricia, I can see Patrick, I can see Hope, I can see Herbert. Um, I've enabled talking. Your mics were muted mandatorily. So if you have any question, do not hesitate. Now is the time to ask. In the after 10 minutes of a break, we shall go into delve into writing. We'll give a few more minutes into what is expected and then we delve into the writing itself. Any question, Patricia, Patrick? Okay, no questions. Okay, so give it a 10, give it a 5. Let me say, give it a 7-minute break. We'll be back at 8:40, and then we shall pick it up from there. I'm just going to take off my video and then see how it goes. But if you have any comment, yes, Herbert, your mic is unmuted.
No, I don't have any comment.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to thank you for this free free class. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'll take off my video, mute my mic, next 5 minutes, and then we'll be back. Over and out for now. Welcome back. I hope everyone is in. I was trying out something. Um, okay. Let me know if you see my screen. Hopefully you see it. If you don't, that'll be sad. Okay, just about 5 more minutes on this, etc. And then, yes, professional staff. This is very important. If you're bidding and you're like small farms like us who do not want to keep a huge payroll and you don't want to hire staff, then staff must commit to being available for to participate in this process by confirming formally. Okay. Alternative professional staff, if you look at 13.4, availability throughout the entire period is mandatory. 13.5, alternative professional staff shall not be proposed, and only one CV may be submitted for each position. So you cannot submit two CVs for a position. But in this case, given that it is a coaching and hopefully mentoring bid, we are going to, the process of coaching and mentoring is such that the client chooses the coach, not the coach choosing the client. So what we normally offer is we'll say we have this number of coaches available for you, and their CVs are here and they are all available. So if a person chooses to go with the one coach X, coach Y, coach A, B, C, then they just go with each of these individual coaches. So that's the way it's going to be structured when it comes to this particular bid document. And then they say one person only per CV. You cannot give us two different alternatives per job, rather. So if we say we're going to give you coaches and we say we're giving you one coach, then the coach you're giving us must be included, must be the person whose CV is attached. If you're giving us 20 coaches, then all the 20 must be available. And we'll say because they say the bid requires us to give them coaches for their leadership, and we do not know how many leaders they have. There is also a coach to client ratio minimum requirement. Then we'll put all these into play and then we'll say we are ready to go. Okay, so technical proposal shall have information captured in the standard forms. There is a form for declaration, there is an outline of recent experience, there are comments and suggestions on TORs, there is the list of the description of the methodology, then there is a list of proposed staff by specialization, and then there is CVs, then the estimated staff input, and then an activity schedule, then a proposal securing declaration, and then the written confirmation authorizing the signatory of the proposal to commit the consultant, and then evidence according to the clause of our eligibility, and then evidence establishing our qualifications to perform the contract if accepted. This one, eligibility, means you're a Ugandan company registered in Uganda, um, paying taxes, etc., etc. Then evidence to showing that we have the qualifications. If we accepted that we have the coaches, etc. The financial is okay, not very complicated. It's actually shorter than the technical proposal. The proposal prices shall be fixed, and that's why we have a proposal securing declaration. It means we are saying this proposal shall be valid with these prices up to date XY. That's very important. And then the currency is UGX. In order to determine our eligibility, you shall complete eligibility declarations in the technical proposal submission sheet. In section 4, submit documents required in section 3, evaluation methodology criteria. Period of validity is also included. Then they talk of proposal securing declaration and then format and signing of proposals. The proposals, there is a process of submission, and then there is a deadline. And then what happens when you have submitted past the deadline, which is late proposals, and then how you withdraw and replace proposals. And then they tell you how proposals shall be opened and how they shall evaluate the proposals, and then compliance and responsiveness of proposals. What happens when you're not conforming, whether there are errors and omissions. Sometimes they'll call you back and say, please clarify this. Sometimes they'll just say, let's abandon this, reject this. They call you back normally if you're very few competing for a bid to clarify certain elements. If not, so um, 32 tells us there is a preliminary examination, administrative compliance, and eligibility. Okay, you are registered. Your registration is up to date. It means you've filed your annual returns up to the current year. You've paid your taxes up to the time of paying your taxes. You have registered with NSSF. Those are administrative eligibility requirements. And then you go into the technical eligibility, that you have the CVs, you have the experience, etc. Then margin of preference. All these are elements, financial comparisons, etc., etc. And how the contract is awarded, there'll be a debrief. If you are not happy with who they awarded it with, to, you can request for an administrative review. So this is a very important data sheet. Who is asking for services? Housing Finance Bank. What is the subject? Executive coaching, consultancy services. And then they say, what is the procurement reference number? We shall always quote this. What is the lot number? You can only bid for one lot. If you are doing a joint venture, individual firms shall be jointly and severally liable. Downstream work, there is no need for downstream work. Who is the person clarifying? Chief Human Resource Officer. Wampel Avenue, plot 4 Wampel Avenue. Okay, most of you know where this is. Just below the airstrip, the Kololo airstrip. And then pre-proposal meeting, they'll not hold a pre-proposal meeting. We shall communicate in writing. If we have any questions, we send them to procurements@housingfinance.co.ug. We shall one stage two envelope submit, and then with no pre-proposal meeting. Shortlisted consultants shall be permitted to associate with other individual consultants or entities in a joint venture. We prior to granting approval to enter a joint venture, Housing Finance Bank can conduct an assessment of consultants who are not invited. Additional information, evaluation methodology and criteria. Additional information, price breakdown, taxes. The financial proposal shall indicate taxes, etc., as a separate amount. Keep that in mind. The prices quoted shall be fixed for the entire period in Uganda shillings, the currency, and the proposal securing declaration is valid until April 2024. So you can see what they're telling us. All these are critical requirements for the bid. And then in addition to the technical and financial proposal, the number of copies of each required is one copy. We are very fortunate this institution wants only one copy, otherwise most other institutions require um, two copies, three actually. Form of authorization, power of attorney is required, registered with the registrar of documents if signed in Uganda, or a notarized power of attorney. So you must have a letter showing that you, the signatory to the proposal, has the power of attorney, the power to represent the company. If you haven't got that document, go and look for it. It's part of this proposal, the requirement for public procurement bidding. So they give you the address you must submit it to, when it shall be opened, and they shall not hold interviews. And then the exchange rate, currency shall be used for financial comparison is Uganda shillings. There is no margin of preference applicable. The evaluation method is there. We will have the following. You must have a certificate of registration issued by the authority for bidders, that is PPDA. You must have a current trading license submitted. You must have committed requested for an income tax clearance certificate valid at least up to June 2023. So this is another requirement. And then NSSF certificate valid up to June 2023. All these should be requested for and provided for. The signed ethical code of ethical conduct is required, and then a signed beneficial ownership form. If you are in business, consulting business in Uganda, you know we recently updated our company documents, and there was a form we were supposed to fill called beneficial owners. That is also supposed to be printed and included as part of the bid. So yes, all these are requirements. If you haven't got them, start collecting them because the time is what is is running out. And then, so writing a bid is one small thing. There is a lot relating to compliance requirements where there is the paperwork, and this is where they say the costs of transaction before the submission of bid, before the contracting, can be high when working with government. And this is why they tell you doing business with government. If you go to Enterprise Uganda, they tell you if you're a small business, don't start doing business with government because it's going to be initially expensive. If you formed your company yesterday or last year, you have to go register with an SSF. You have to get an SSF clearance. When you finish registering with an SSF, you have to go to URA. Keep paying your taxes. If you pay VAT, you have to pay every 15th or to declare your taxes every 15th of every month. If you don't pay VAT every 6 months, you have to pay and have a declaration of your taxes. That's a cost. Then you have to get a trading license. Then you have to clear with URSB and sign online registration and have a beneficial owners form and things like that. All those are the basic requirements. I would say, like the same way you don't step out of your house without having underwear, this is the underwear or the clothing required for you to step into the realm of dealing with doing business with government. Okay, there we go. Then they say you must have evidence of completion of similar consultancy work with government or a credible institution. For example, a signed contract, a copy of an LPO must be attached. A complete price schedule signed duly by a person with powers of attorney, again, and then a copy of memorandums of articles of partnership deeds to show that the bidder was registered for the kind of businesses being applied for. Okay, and then a power of attorney. So there's a whole list of forms that need to be collected. Evaluation criteria, they'll give us 10 marks if we have experience in coaching. They'll give us 5 marks if experience of our personnel is good. If we understand the TORs, the deliverables, 7 marks. If we comment on the TORs, give it a professional touch to show that we understand what coaching is, 3 marks. How many is that altogether? 10 plus 5, 15 plus 10, 25 marks. The quality of the methodology, um, 25, 30 plus 5, that is 35 plus 25 is 60. So 60% is all about experience, the personnel you have, whether you've understood the methodology, objectives, and the quality of your approach. You get that? And then you get another 15 plus 10, 25, 30, 40, about 40%. So the other one is 60, 30, 40. I think these guys have 110 somewhere. I may have added it badly. So anyway, if you meet this, you'll get 75 points. Once you get 75 points, Minimum qualifying mark is 75 points. If you get 75 points, you qualify to go for them to open your financial proposal. Okay, and then they compute. There's a formula here to show how you'll win, and then we now go into the forms. Okay, so now here is where the rubber hits the road. The first thing we're going to be required to do is to insert a technical proposal submission sheet. Okay, so I am going to open a new document. I'll just copy and paste and write it as something new, and then I'll share the screen. Okay, so here we are delving into, let me just say, bid document training for learning for housing finance. And then I save it on my OneDrive, which means I can retrieve it anywhere else. And I'm going to share the new screen now, which has the bid document. I'm going to put, as I share an application window, anyone who has a question, now is the time to ask, because now we are going into the writing and we will spend the next, oh yeah, it's already 30 minutes. You need your 5-minute break. We'll spend the rest of the time um, capturing as much information as we can in the document. So what happens is they give us all these forms and our job is just to fill the forms. Filling forms is not complicated. The complication is meeting all those minimum requirements for administrative, also making sure that you respond comprehensively to the terms of reference. So those are the two critical elements of writing a proposal. I'm going to pause here, ask if we have any question. If we do not have a question, please just say no question in the chat, in the Q&A, so I can continue, or I can give you your 5-minute break. Some people want to smoke, we call it a cigarette break. Some people want to go to the toilet, we call it a toilet break. Whichever break you want to have, and then we pick it up from there in 5 minutes and we start writing the proposal. Sorry for spending an hour in this, but we needed to understand what does it take to do business with government as a consultant firm, as a consulting firm. As an individual consultant, the requirements are much less to do business with government. So I would request each one of us here, even if you're not yet providing services to government, go to PPDA's website, register as an individual consultant. You'll always get notices, or you'll have access to the e-government procurement system where they send requests for proposals to individual consultants, and you list your specialization and things like that. They'll not ask you for a tax clearance certificate. They'll not ask you for any of those crazy things, but there'll be a few requirements they may have, proof that you've done that kind of work with other organizations. Okay, 5-minute break. We come back. When we come back, we are writing. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm projecting something that will keep us occupied for the next 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Let me know if you cannot see my screen. Bid document. Okay, so I'll just pick up from where we stopped. And again, welcome back. Thank you for hanging in there. It can be a painful experience, but it's worth the wait. Tomorrow, when you start doing big time gigs, I always say, if you are like me, straight from the job, and you start in working in consulting, and you have domestic bids worth 300 million Uganda shillings, for example, and you win about 3 or 4 of them in a year, that's about 1.2 billion, which means you're working with an expected income of about how much? 100 million per annum, per month. Yes, you're working with an expected income of 100 million per month. If you pay off consultants maybe up to 60 million, you still have about 40 million to per month to work with, which is not bad for a typical Ugandan. And 40 million Uganda shillings a month puts you in the world's top 5% or 2% earning people. The world, not Uganda. The entire world, you're among the top 2% earning people. So somebody has a question. Demonstration of experience. Similar tasks. Can recommendation letters or certificates of completion of similar tasks work to replace contracts and LPOs? Yes. Sometimes, because we always argue that if you give um, certificates of completion, that's okay. If I may be reluctant to give contracts because of privacy. Two, I may also not want to be quoted. Uh, if I quoted a low price for the other contract and then they see me giving them details of the contract, and yet I'm quoting a higher price, they might want to negotiate downwards. So LPOs and contracts, we always argue and then we have a discussion, which you can flag in the comments with the terms of reference or in the request for clarification. And we say, yes, we have contracts, but they are private. We cannot give you these contracts. Are you okay with the um, recommendation letter? Are you okay with the certificate of completion? So that also takes us back to, thank you, Hope, for this. That takes us back to when you finish an assignment with the client, always make sure you request for a certificate of completion, because now this is your evidence that you'll be attaching to these bids. Whichever client you do work with, say, please give me a certificate of completion. If you're having a challenge, you draft one and give it to them, and they print it on their letterhead and they give it back to you. So one of your tools that you need to have is a list, a template of a certificate of completion for your clients. As long as they do that and put it on a letterhead, and you tell them, now that you've paid me, before I give you your receipt, send me a certificate of completion, then I'll send you your receipt. And they are desperate to get receipts. So that is very important. Thank you for raising that. What do they call it? Hope. This is very important. Yes, they can be substituted only after confirming with the client. Okay, your answer has been shared. Oh, great. So if there are any other questions, please feel free. I'll just capture this for now because we're working on this document as another firm. Day, today is 26th. They say day, month is November and 2023. That is our date. Okay. Now all these are notes for us to just take into consideration. November 26, November 2023, procurement reference number. We have to always keep the procurement reference number we had in this bid document. I think I should just split the screens, but when I split the screens, it will be very small. You'll not be able to see the bulk of this. So the ITC is the instruction to consultants, isn't it? Yes. So procurement, I'm looking for the procurement reference number. You won't be seeing my entire screen, so I'll just be copying and pasting. And then they told us who we should address the bid to, isn't it? Uh, they said request for clarification shall be addressed to the head of HR, Chief Human Resource Officer, but procuring and disposing entity for proposal submission purposes only, the entity is this. And then who is it addressed to? It's not very clear. Submission. I'm looking at the ITC. I hope you have that uh, document because I shared it with us on the in the invitation. If you received an email for this link, you also received a copy of this document. So I'll just write to the procurement manager or something just for purposes of this exercise, but you make sure you find the person you're supposed to address it to in the instruction to consultants, the ITC. Okay. Submission, street address, deadline is that. So procurement to insert the complete name of the procuring and disposing entity. That is, sorry. Now I'm using Microsoft Word, so I'm going to use non-printing characters to housing finance bank. Is it Uganda Limited? I hope so. And then the address was okay. I really don't like these. Housing Finance Bank. When I get this, I normally prefer to tabulate it, capture it in a table format, and then sorry, sorry. I normally like to capture this in tabular format, and then I hide the table itself. So the street address. It said the street address is Chairperson Contracts Committee. As you can see, there's already an error in the document. Town, city, Kampala, and then country is Uganda. So I'll put the 2 here, and then again, this is just really a lot of word processing more than responding to the bid, but it is very important that you look organized in your work. So don't play with this. Try as much as possible to be as organized as you can, and then so this will be the first document we are submitting is called what? Is called technical proposal submission sheet. So this will be our first output, and I'll just say merge formatting. We shall give it headers and the rest later. Should I have captured this also? It's okay. Control R. Okay. So a lot of this work is also a formatting issue, and I always tell people, don't be lazy. Give it your best even from the start. So this is going to be our technical proposal submission sheet. It will have a heading. If you know how to format headings. If you have any questions as I write, please feel free to ask the way Hope asked in the Q&A. Okay, so we, the undersigned, declare that we have examined and have no reservations um, to the request for proposals, including the addenda. They did not have addenda, isn't it? If there was addenda, then we would have inserted the addenda. So we delete that. Okay. And then we go to the next. We offer to provide the services in conformity with the RFP document for the, what was the service description? The service description was called coaching and what? Control function home. Procurement of consultancy services, provision of consultancy services for executive coaching for Housing Finance Bank. Okay, so it is not Housing Finance Bank Uganda Limited, it is just Housing Finance Bank. And then here we quote the services. I'm just copying and pasting. Okay, so just give me a second. Sorry, that was an. Okay, so where are we at? Provision of consultancy services. We hereby submit the proposal, which includes the technical and financial proposal secured under a separate envelope. Our proposal shall be valid until the date specified in ITC clause. ITC is instruction to consultants, and it shall remain binding upon us and may be accepted at any time before and including the date, that date. We including any subcontractors. Sorry, you see where there are underlines. It's just a word processing, spell check, and grammar check. That's why you see the underlines. We, including any subcontractors or consultants for any part of the contract resulting from this procurement process, are eligible to participate in public procurement. That eligibility is determined by that form you get. We, including any subcontractors or consultants for any part of the contract resulting from this procurement process, are registered with the authority registration number this. So we have to go and pick our registration number. And what is that number for us? Let us just quickly look for it and paste it there. So you must have that number registered with you by PPDA, and you can get that service sorted online. And again, if you have any questions that require clarification on PPDA, please feel free to ask. Can always get you help with that as well. Let me see what the number is. Guys, these guys didn't give us the number. Oh yes, the number is here. Copy. No worry if you want to look for us. So that's the number. Consultants who are not registered, who that should amend the statement. So we are a registered firm. I've captured the details of the firm. Uh, Private service provider with the number that, the registration of that. We, including any associates, venture partners, subcontractors, have nationals from eligible countries. Insert the nationality of the consultant, including all parties that comprise the consultant if the consultant is a joint venture. And then we say the eligible country is Uganda. You get that? Okay. This is a painstaking process, but it is beautiful when you have a contract smelling 300 million at the end of the day. The problem is this cost is incurred at the beginning and you don't pay. You win, you lose. That's a bill you have to foot. But we like the experience because with every winning bid, you become better at your gig or at your work at the assignment. So here we go. We, including any associates, are nationals from Uganda. Have nationals from Uganda, all eligible countries, that is Uganda. We have signed and undertake to abide by the Code of Ethical Conduct for consultants. We are not participating as consultants in more than one proposal in this procurement process. So if somebody asks you for their CV and you give it to them, and that's why they always say make sure they sign as part of the people participating in the procurement process as being available for you. If you get a CV from me today and you say I'm going to bid for coaching, executive coaching for housing finance, and then another firm comes and says they also want to use my CV and I give it to them, then the firms that submitted two CVs are posing a risk or a threat by showing that they want to participate in every assignment in this regard. So that is always discouraged, and that's why we say please provide evidence that you're going to be part. You're not going. You're going to be committed with this organization for this period. We, including any other subcontractors, do not have any conflict of interest and have not participated in the preparation of the original project. Uh, Element J is picked from World Bank's procurement guidelines. It's somehow we lose out a lot on this. If you are part of a project that led to the creation of coaching and mentoring service requirements, you're not expected to bid. If you do work under World Bank and you bid for an assignment and you participate, but out of that assignment there was another contract, you no longer qualify because they expect you will have insider information, so you're not included in that bidding process. So this is why that clause is there. And then we and our affiliates or anyone have not been suspended. Very true. This proposal is binding upon us, subject to modifications agreed. We are affiliates or subcontractors. So you can see Microsoft Word is really helping these people edit their documentation. Okay, IJKL. We understand that this proposal shall not be binding on the entity until a formal contract is prepared and executed. Uh, our proposal is binding. Oh, JKLM. Yes. We understand that we are not bound to accept the lowest proposal and any other proposal that you may receive. Signed signature of a person whose name and capacity. You get that? Uh, Duly authorized to sign, dated on this day. I'll just put it on the 29th just because I'm sure we'll be done by then. 29th day of November 2023. And that's the date we'll be signing this document, or my boss will be signing this document. So the signatures will be included. And then, of course, this is British and American English on behalf of, and this is the name of the consulting firm. We shall embed it there. So we've met requirement number one. It's just their plain document, uh, nothing special about it. And then we go to what was the next document required of us. The next document required of us was 4 point what? BCD. Okay. Section 2. Proposal securing detailed evaluation criteria. Sorry. So these are the forms. The first form was the technical proposal submission sheet. The second form is the code of ethical conduct in business for bidders and providers. That must be filled and signed. Again, it is just copy and paste. This thing is sent to you in Word. Some organizations are ruthless. They send it to you in PDF, but no worries. We can always get a way around that. So I'm just pasting the second document, which is the code of ethical conduct. And because we will be using our own table formatting, this shall be uppercase. Then I'll just do that. Don't worry, those are what we call non-printing characters. I'll make that heading, and then the code of ethical conduct. I'll make it a heading as well. So we again fill this blank, which is the easy part. Why am I going through all this laboriously? Is because most of the time we think if I know the content, I'll just get it done. And yet 90% of this proposal is compliance. When you're writing, 10% is the content of your technical um, work that you're going to deliver. So if you don't score well on the 90%, you'll be very good at writing the technicalities, but you'll fail to have meet the requirements that are administrative, the requirements that allow you get out of the building or put your foot in the door. And that is what is very important in this case. We need to keep our minds um, in we need to keep that at the back of our minds. Okay. So under section 93 of the PPDA Act, bidders shall and providers shall at all times maintain integrity, blah, 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 in conflict, fraudulent practice. Okay, so there was a section break there that was consuming our space. Unlawfully. So all these are things you must just say, yes, we agree. We agree. But why am I looking through it? Because it forms part of our bidding what? Document. Uh, double billing. So these are all spelling errors. I agree to comply with the above code of ethical conduct in business. So the name, authorized signatory, name, name of consultant. Let's see how it looked like in the previous one. Okay, yeah, so uh, again, I always like to put this in table format so that I just have one thing here called authorized signatory. And then I have name of consultant. It saves me a lot of messy And I can draw my lines. Authorized signatory, that's where you sign, and then your name as the consultant, that's where you sign. Uh, and then of course you can move this further down, or you can move this further down. Again, part of this exercise, the huge chunk of it is also a word processing, a word processing experience. So we've just captured 2 out of, I think, 12 requirements. But like we always say, we go slow up to the point where we crack the code. If there are any questions as we go on, please do not hesitate to ask. So after that, what is the next? Beneficial ownership declaration form. Okay. Now, if you have registered with what do they call that body? URSB. Then this information is easy for you to do it, to get. We just pick it from your form and we fill in the blanks. All these will be having their own page headings. I don't know why it is shade, no color. Okay, so what I'll do for this is I'll just say retain the formatting, copy, and formatting. Sorry. Strange. Okay, no problem. This is not something to really dwell a lot of. Yeah, this is what I wanted. I didn't want this. Then it was this form is issued by PPDA to collect beneficiary ownership information. Now here you'll fill in your details. I'm not filling in for the company you're working with for again privacy reasons, but here is where we fill in the details and we capture. Are the beneficiaries exposed? Is this a text box? Okay, so this is supposed to be something with a check mark where you can select. Unfortunately, it isn't enabled, so I have to go into Microsoft Word and go into enabling this. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay, then once you fill the beneficial ownership declaration form, you go to the next element of the proposal, which is consultants references. Okay, now if you've done coaching as a firm, this is where you're supposed to be able to capture um, your references. And we shall paste it here. And then we shall make that our heading. And since all our headings were in capital letters, relevant services carried out provide information on each assignment for which the consultant, either individually or as a corporate entity. Now you see the benefit of this. You get that? What is the assignment? I'll use an example we did for this very bank, and assignment name. Um, Balance strength coaching. Country was Uganda. Location in within country, Kampala. Professional staff provided by consultant profiles 2. Name of client, housing, finance, bank. Number of staff. Number of staff of this client, they're about 400. They said that in their bid. Address, we already have the address somewhere, isn't it? So the trick also about this proposal writing is you now have to fill in and keep. It's going to be a nested table. Sorry, nest table. So I've nested the table: housing finance bank, uh, chief human resource officer. Okay. Number of staff months, duration of assignment. We did this for 2 months, if I remember. That date was about. I'm just feeling one to show you what happened. So, staff engagement survey and Gallup strengths coaching, country Uganda, 2 staff, location in country. I should have bolded the others instead. Okay, so anyone stuck so far? Because I'm working on one screen, I'm not looking at the questions, but yes, the questions are here. If you're not stuck, if you're stuck, you can shoot. So again, we most of us, when we're writing bids, we have profiles that are different, but these people expect a standard profile. When did we start this? I think it ran from December to January, December 2023 to January, January 2023. Approximate value of services. Let me give it a rough figure in US dollars. Now, you see, they want us to bid in Uganda shillings, but they forgot to change the form to show Uganda shillings. These are small things you pick up as you continue getting through this work of writing bid documents. You'll notice the small errors they make. They say they want the bid in Uganda shillings, but they're asking you to quote how much it was in what? In US dollars. How much the services you provided in US dollars, which is, again, this template was just copied and pasted from World Bank's bidding documents, especially because at that point, these companies were receiving, I mean, government was receiving money from who? From World Bank. Okay, I'm trying to figure this out, but it's really playing a number on me. Okay. Name of associated consultants, if any. Do we have associate consultants? I'll put here my name just in the case, just in case. So number of months professional provided by associated consultants, 2. So name of senior staff, project director, coordinator involved, and functions performed. You get that? So who was the team lead here? I'll just put my name again and then the other name. You get that? Then narrative description of the project. Okay. Conducted a staff engagement survey using the Gallup Q12 model and provided coaching of the HR team on how to roll out the survey, as well as developed uh, toolkit to guide team leaders on how to interpret and utilize the survey findings. Okay, so this was a narrative. One team member, a certified Gallup provided um, king services to the team leaders and the HR team of the bank. There we go. Description of actual services provided by your staff. Okay. So one was conducting the Gallup Q12 staff engagement survey, uh, coaching of the HR team on roll out of the survey, uh, and then developing completion report, a completion report including findings of the survey. What else did we do? If somebody can remind me. Okay. So you're supposed to have this, the more the better. Okay. So the consultant's name here will write the name. Let me not forget. So now if we act as an individual, I'll say so and so. If we worked as a firm, I would say firm XY. And then I give that as an estimate, etc., etc. So you're supposed to do this for all your, let me use the word gigs, all the gigs you carried out. And so if this is one and you're teaming up with consultants, then you copy and do about 3, 4, 5 of these. Because for each of these, they might ask you for a reference. I'm just writing them there so that at the end of the day, when I come back and work with my colleagues, um, it will be easy. So interestingly, for this particular assignment, some of you here on this call are part of this, as in have an understanding of this particular client. Um, so we did this work for the client, and the client was very happy. They decided to call us in and give us 3 years rolling basis of this particular survey approach, and that is also as a result of a good output, more or less, but still a bit of the fact that this is a repeat client for that particular kind of work. So they said, we are tired of contracting you every year. Let's just enter a framework contract that runs the next 3 years, and then we see how it goes from there. Okay. So we have 15 minutes. We've just captured um, consultant's reference. Now we are going to comments and suggestions on the terms of reference. Okay. The beauty of this proposal is they've already given you a structure. You just have to have content to fill in the blanks. So merge formatting. The next element was what? Comments and suggestions on the terms of reference. And then heading, I make this heading. So what are the instructions here? They say comments and suggestions on the terms of reference that could improve the quality, effectiveness of the assignment, and on the requirements for counterpart staff and facilities which are provided by the client, including administrative support, office space, local transportation, equipment, data, etc. Okay, so we'll take this out, and now we have to go and read the terms of reference. So I'm going to ask, please open your folder which had the terms of reference, and then we see. If not, I'm going to have to switch the windows to the terms of reference to the, and then we ask ourselves, how do we develop these comments, the terms of reference? Okay, so anyone has any questions, shoot in the what do you call that? In the Q&A. If not, I'm getting off this window for a bit and I'm sharing the screen to show the terms of reference. Application window. So these are the terms of reference. They were in the document that was shared. We've captured so far. We haven't had the proposal securing declaration. I think they left out that letter in this set of bid documents. But there we go. This is what the TORs are telling us. I'll increase the font size, or should I increase the screen size? Housing Finance Bank, HFB, is a financial institution licensed and regulated by BOU as a commercial bank. It is cognizant, blah, 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 blah. Today's leaders. Okay, let me just read through it painstakingly. The bank is cognizant that success in today's competitive business landscape requires more than a good strategy and a well-developed execution plan. It requires leaders to think and act in new ways, to learn, anticipate, and adapt. Today's leaders need to be generative. This person is talking like AI, able to re-energize and increase the value they deliver for their people, customers, partners, and shareholders, and themselves. As part of its strategic intent to strengthen leadership effectiveness and a performance driven organizational culture for sustainable competitiveness and business growth, the bank is desirous to adopt executive coaching as a critical leadership development intervention. To this end, the bank would like to engage the services of a competent and experienced firm offering executive coaching services with the ability to treat every coaching engagement as a true partnership between the leader and coach, provide a safe, confidential, and deep level of support to the eligible leaders enrolled in the program. The objective of the consultancy. The objective, okay, so in the background, they're telling us something. They want to strengthen leadership effectiveness and performance driven culture for sustainable competitiveness and business growth. Those are so many things. Like a coach trainer used to say, you've gotten too many girlfriends in the room. You can't take all of them on a date. But they want to strengthen leadership effectiveness, which should lead to performance driven culture. But they said and, which means including. So, should we focus on leadership effectiveness? Should we focus on performance driven culture? Should we focus on sustainable competitiveness? Should we focus on business growth? That's a mouthful. But for me, if I was questioning comments with the terms of reference, I'd be saying be clear what you want to focus on. Unless you're saying one is a consequence of the other, which is a consequence of the other, and which is a consequence of the other. Okay. And then they say, to this end, the bank would like to engage the services of the firm, blah, blah, blah. The objective of the consultancy. So we're already looking at that and asking with a critical eye, is there something wrong with this? Is there something they could have missed out? The first mistake they've made is they want to do many things. They want to attend to 4 girlfriends, for lack of a better word. 4 girlfriends using one what? One guy called the coach. Okay. Or deliver 4 results using one coach. So, what will the coach be accountable for? Will it be leadership effectiveness? Will it be performance driven culture? Will it be sustainable competitiveness? Or are they saying once we get effective leaders, we shall get all these things? So accountability is going to be hazy. As a farm, I want to be very clear what I'm going to be held accountable for, that the leaders are effective. That one I'll probably say yes. But as a coach, I'll say, even for leadership effectiveness, I can't be held responsible. Why? Because as a coach, the responsibility for transformation does not lie with the coach, it lies with the client. So I may have coached you and had all these sessions, but you just don't believe housing finance is the place where your skills should be developed. All those are questions we need to answer as we submit our what? Our bid. So, what are the objectives? To strengthen the capacity of senior leaders and leadership teams in the bank to drive transformational change and set the foundation for long-term impact and value through the delivery of an executive coaching program that will facilitate change and employee adaptability, productivity, and strengthen leadership effectiveness in the bank. So they've zeroed it down. They said our issue is the capacity of leaders and leadership team to strengthen. The coach's job is not to strengthen this capacity. Again, if you're a professional coach, you know the act of strengthening is not your business. Your act of strength of coaching is to help the person go into walk through a journey of self discovery uh, of their potential and self tap into the potential. You as a coach cannot even tap into the potential of this person. So this is the spirit is there, but the letter is killing the what? Killing the depth of the scope. So looking at it from the eyes of a coach, there is something missing. In Uganda, they'll be saying waliwa kabulam. Um, so again, for me, that's going to be comments on TORs, isn't it? Strengthen the capacity of senior leaders. Capacity strengthening, that is the objective of the assignment. You get that? So they are looking for a coaching program that will deliver strengthened capacity. And they want target 40 people. You get that? So if you're a coach, excuse me, there is also the coach to client ratio, if I'm not mistaken. And that means if you want to coach 40 people, you must give them a number of coaches that they can pick from and they are happy with to say, I want this one as my coach, I want so and so as my what? As my coach. Scope of work. Develop and deliver a coaching framework to support the bank's cultural change aspiration. Now they are zeroing in. The other time they said strengthen capacity of leaders to drive transformational change and set the foundation. Develop a coaching framework to support the bank's cultural change aspirations. So the coaching is all about what does it take for you to be a good leader or to facilitate change. Design and delivery of training of trainers program intended to build capacity for internal coaches. So they want you to train coaches to make them coaches. So in addition to you coaching, they want you to make them coaches. This is interesting because then that would mean they would have to be they want us to do the work of a coaching academy, or do they want us to deliver? They are not clear whether they want us to deliver them to them certified coaches or just coaches who know coaching. So there's a difference there. So for me, in the comments with the terms of reference, I would now go and say, this is smelling, this is stinking. You get that? Improvement to the terms of reference. So this is the most smelly one for starters. There are so many, but this is the most smelly one. Scope of work. So you have to frame it. The, the consultant observes that the pace of work that the client in the scope of works, and then you give the reference 2.1b. 2.1b states that they want copy, and then states that they desire. Sometimes I'll give you they desire the consultant to design and deliver a training of trainers program intended to build capacity for internal coaches. You get that? Trainers. Okay. Okay. Um, the consultant. So we've quoted what the issue is. The consultant humbly seeks clarification as to whether the client intends to have the 40 targeted participants to be certified in coaching when they have completed the TOT, or whether they need skilling in the basics of coaching, um, which does not necessarily require certification. You get that? So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, oh, let me see. Somebody might tell me I went off. Which screen was I sharing? I was sharing the screen that had the bidding document, and I forgot to bid document. Okay. So it was the bid document I was sharing. Okay. So the consultant believes that the client states that they desire the consultant to design and deliver training of trainers program. What we are not clear here is they are not telling us whether the training of trainers program is to train them and produce certified coaches, or whether the training is to just make people aware of the basic skills required in conducting coaching. If that is the case, then yes, we can say, oh yes, we can provide you the basic skills required in conducting coaching. But if you need to do training of trainers and produce certified coaches, then we'll have to refer you to a coaching academy that is what certified to provide certified coaching. That already means they've pushed out every other competitor and they have restricted the competition to coaching training providers, not necessarily coaches. So the consultant uh, requests that the client clarifies this. So sometimes it's until you get to starting to writing the bid that you might be like, we probably need to go back to the client and ask them, um, you aren't clear on this. What do you want? What do you mean? You aren't clear on this. What do you mean? You aren't clear on this. What do you mean? This is also good because it buys you time. So now if we wrote an email to the client and said, do you want a trainer of coaches to certify your coaches internally, or do you want somebody who will give you a training of trainers on what coaching is basically? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps of coaching and blah blah blah, and you don't walk away with a certificate. If you want a certificate, that means the fee goes up to about just for the training of trainers alone, the fee goes to about $2,500 per head times 40. 2,500 times 10 is 25,000, times 40 is $100,000. So you already have your 300 and something million in the pocket for for training of trainers. You get that? So if they want training of trainers, then in our bid we can say we shall refer you to a coaching academy and this is the bill for 40 people to get certified in a 6 month. It's 6 months, yes, in a 6 month training period for coaching. If they don't want certified people, then we can say yes, we can organize a 5 day um, intensive care lab for these 40 leaders to learn the basics of coaching, just enough for them to carry on their routine work. So those are the options we have on the table as far as coaching is comments on the terms of reference is concerned. Then they said provision of coaching services for selected leaders to address both one-on-one and leadership coaching, group and team executive coaching services. Then develop and implement a framework to establish individual leadership development goals, which integrates the bank's leadership framework with the leader attributes as part of the key leadership development program. So now they are confusing coaching and leadership development, or they are assuming that coaching is the only tool they can use to deliver on leadership development. So in our comments to the terms of reference, I'll just say on each comment I'll be saying training for certification or training for skilling without certification. So I'll call this heading 2, and this I'll call it heading 3. Sorry. So I'm going to pause here. Since our time has run out, I'm going to ask whether anybody here has the energy to continue, or should I sign out and pick it up. But I'm not sure I'll pick up with the same bit because this one will be done. We're submitting on Wednesday, inshallah. Maybe we'll see if there's another one and then we pick up from where we stopped. I'm going to pause here and ask if there are any questions. Please ask now. If you want to sign out, please let me know because I had committed 2 hours to your time. But at least we can just say we've understood a little bit, or we've learned a little bit, or what we walked through today is what are the contents of a bid uh, instructions to bidders. You get that? Standard bidding documents. What does a government standard bidding document look like? We didn't go through all the 90 pages. Fortunately, you have that, but we flagged the key elements that we need to pay attention to as consultants. Then we delved into why the costs that we normally incur as consultants, even before we enter the contract, and what we need to pay attention to. We looked at the general administrative requirements for doing procurement with government, for doing consultancy with government. We also went into looking at the first components of the proposal for a government bid. We started with a submission sheet, then went to a code of ethics document. Then we went into what was the third element we went into? The third one was, let me just follow it. There's a new one, beneficial ownership declaration form. We just started filling these forms sometime this year, and it has now appeared in the PPDA bids. So this is a new one. Then consultants references, that has been there. And after looking at consultants references, how you can fill that, we went into looking at comments and suggestions on the terms of reference. Somehow, normally the 2 hours always catch us when we are digging into the meat of the proposal, which is more the technical. But I would largely say, if you're good at HR, if you're good at what you do, the comments and suggestions in the term of reference is a technical skill. You have to know what you know in your area, in your profession, to be able to comment on these terms of reference and to add value. We've seen two things. I'll be looking at it to see if there's more. One has already been, there's a bit of confusion. Do they want leadership development? Do they want coaching? Do they want leadership effectiveness, etc.? They want us to run a leadership development program, which includes coaching. And so for us, as a firm that I'm participating with, we shall bid with a value proposition of, you guys seem to want more than coaching. You want leadership development. So let's give you the full leadership development package, because you're saying develop training program. Training and coaching are two different things. You're saying you want people to be effective and deliver performance results. How about we incorporate mentoring? So we shall package this in such a manner that we give you more value than coaching, despite the fact that you wanted us to bid for provision of coaching services. The other one is we are telling them we are assuming you're assuming that leadership effectiveness is driven absolutely by coaching, which is not, from both theory and practice. There are many angles that you could use perspective to develop leadership effectiveness and to deliver results, especially with the focus on culture change, which they've talked about. So we need to pay attention to that as well, and then package our proposal around what is the value we are bringing to you that nobody else is going to give you. And then maybe we'll come back in another meeting and we celebrate. I think this is a journey that we can all walk, and that's the reason why we have this. This is a skill you can pick up and start working on, practicing tomorrow. And like I said, if you start practicing tomorrow and you want this bid and the threshold is 300 million, doesn't mean you have to always quote 300 million. It means you've already guaranteed yourself at least 20 million per month if you are working as a single consultant, isn't it? If you win five of those bids, that's 1.5 billion at local consultant level, and 1.5 billion is a good place to start as far as money is concerned. You'll still be per annum, that you'll still be in the top 1% earning people in the entire world, top 1 to 5% people earning in the entire world. I'm going to pause here, ask if there are any questions. If people want us to continue a little bit until we exhaust the comments with the terms of reference, you can flag that in the Q&A. If not, I would want to sign out and allow you people to go and pray. uh, Otherwise, you might say, I've decided to step in the shoes of wherever you go for prayers. Any questions? I'll leave the floor open for now for the next 1 minute. And then if there are no questions, you can unmute your mics, or you can just type it in the Q&A. Ah. No comments, no questions. Actually, it doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment. It can be an observation. Okay. Um, Let me look at my clock again. The time is 10. Where I am, it's now what? It's 10:09 for you guys. 10:09. It's about 7 a.m. here, 7:09 time zones. So no questions, no comments. Okay, I'm going to pause and ask a quick one for each one of us. Writing in the Q&A, one thing that has jumped out for you. I know most of you attending this have been in the business of writing bids. So what has jumped out for you? Please just write one sentence or one word in the Q&A. What has jumped out for you in this 2 hours conversation? I normally would want to call it one way. If you want to say it on the microphone, well and good. If you feel you want to say it just by typing, what has jumped out for you most in this discussion we've had so far? Over to you. Patricia, Patrick, Robert, Hope. Great. So, with your permission, I want to pause here for today and then sign out. And then, if you're in the groups, we'll keeping our eyes on the for notification. If you're in the community, the consulting career community, if you're in the personal, professional HR coaching WhatsApp group, we'll keep the updates there. Hopefully, I have enough space on my forum on my server to save this video. I'm seeing one question. Thank you, Hope. Thank you for hanging in there throughout this entire exercise. And thanks for joining. I'll hopefully share the video with the rest of us. Upload the video for us. And as usual, if you're expressing interest or you want to start using these documents as a template, I normally give you a copy of what I have done up to the point where we stopped the lesson. The day we finish a full proposal, that will require a full 6, 7 hours. Maybe I'll do a master class. That will be a paid one if I come in person. So I want to sign up for now and then just wish you a lovely weekend and keep in touch. Ask the questions, keep them coming. If you want to write a bid and you feel you're stuck somewhere, I might bill you for it, but we can always work together for that. I want to sign out and wish you a lovely day. Bye for now.